Inside the atmosphere where you and I are breathing right now, there are 10 trillion atoms. That was 2 trillions, by the way. The higher you go on Earth, the less atoms there are. If you go 100 kilometers straight up, where you get close to the atmosphere, the amount of atoms per square meter reaches 1 million trillion. That's a lot less than the old number, 7 zeros to be exact. But we're not gonna stay here, so let's go higher and higher. When you reach the distance between the moon and the Earth, there is 7 million atoms per cubic meter. But let's continue and leave the solar system. How many atoms are here per cubic meter? When you enter interstellar space, which is outside of the solar system, the amount of atoms per cubic meter is 1,000. If we continue this route and continue moving forward, and even exit the Milky Way galaxy in a region that's called intergalactic space, and the amount of atoms per cubic meters reaches 10. You might think that a region like this is actually very empty, but that's not the case, because when you leave a galaxy, you reach a supercluster of galaxies in a neighborhood. Even though the next galaxy is many light years away, you really can't call this place empty. Since we came all this way, we want to find a section of the universe that's absolutely empty. A place that's called voids. A void in space is a location that there is not much going on, and it truly is empty. From each directions, there is a lack of galaxies, and there is no star. So how big are these voids anyways? These voids could be as wide as millions of light years. The smallest voids that actually count are around 3 million light years across. But the average size of a void is about 30 million light years. There are some voids that you can't even imagine, or your head starts hurting. Empty voids that are 100 million light years across. These are not called voids anymore. They're actually called supervoids. Imagining this vast space is pretty much impossible in a human brain, because it really can't compare it to anything else for them to truly understand it. Like if you wanted to compare it to the size of the Milky Way, it doesn't even matter because you can't even compare these two. Comparing the Milky Way next to this void is like comparing the size of a tennis ball in the Amazon rainforest. Since the year 1970, scientists have discovered these voids and are studying it non-stop to figure out what is actually going on in these places. And in the last 50 years, they've been able to find 100 of these supervoids. Ever since the Big Bang, these voids have been created in space. After the Big Bang, different gases and space dust created stars. Stars created galaxies. And the galaxies lived next to each other in supercluster neighborhoods. This process caused a lot of empty space to be created in the universe, and these empty spaces are voids. The older the universe gets, the closer these galaxy clusters get to one another, and they create superclusters, and these supervoids continue to get bigger and bigger. One of the biggest voids that astronomers and scientists have been able to find is right here, the Boötes void. This location is 330 million light years across. In this vast space, there is only 60 galaxies, and they are so far apart from one another that you can't even count them as the same neighborhood. In a place like this, scientists believe that there should be tens of thousands of galaxies, but the number doesn't even reach 100. It would be very interesting to visit one of these distant galaxies in the Emptiest void, just to see what is going on. Are there aliens living there? And what are they seeing? It would be interesting, but something like this is only an imagination because there's no way we would do this in our lifetime. Of course, for more than 50 years, scientists are trying to figure out why there are empty spaces this vast in the universe. One way you can figure out how open this area is that you can imagine the planet has only one city inside it and the rest of it is completely empty. But right now, there are more than 10,000 cities on planet Earth. When astronomers found the Emptiest void in the year 1981, they gave it a name, and that name was the Great Nothing. If there's life on any planets in the Emptiest void, they don't see any other galaxies, and if they do, they will need special equipment to actually see it. So their sky is very different from us. But this is a stupid comparison because we don't even know what's going on over there. We're just comparing it to the world we know. If you've seen our video about dark energy, you'll know that it's this energy that's expanding the universe since it was born. And this means the universe is getting bigger, so the voids and the super voids are getting wider. Have you ever seen old cities? And there is a tiny number of walkways where you can enter the entire city. And the reason for that was so nobody would conquer them easily. Galaxy superclusters are the same. Thousands of galaxies are in one neighborhood, and they do everything together. They move around space and time together, and different matter always gets added onto them, so they continue to get larger. And that is why a lot of physicists say the universe's future looks like this. The superclusters are going to get much larger and more crowded, while empty spaces like supervoids get bigger and bigger. But the future that we are talking about is not in 100 years, it's millions and millions of years. Eventually the universe will reach the stage that superclusters are so large and far away from one another that most of the universe will be completely empty space. And that means most of the universe would be one giant supervoid, somewhere cold, alone, and far away.